Hi everyone, Wilmar Calagos here and back with another step, which is step number 5, which is integration. So let's go back to just what we just covered. So we've gone through step 1, figuring out exactly what you want to do, who, what, where, when, and how, and who you're going to work with, and then having the vision, mission of exactly what you want to accomplish in your business. And then through knowing your foundation, you get to step 2, and it's really just narrowing down the systems, what systems you need to create, um, and really thinning that down to the ones that you just need to have today to run your business. And then we got to documentation and pretty much taking those systems that you've uh, deemed and determined that you need for your business to operate today, and really getting down to the different steps. And then you couple that with the technology and really finalize exactly what applications you're going to need. And then this step is really step number 5, which is integration. It's really once you take, as the time you really need for steps 1, 2, and 3, and really not just kind of blew through those steps and all those essentially 12 modules, then integration should be pretty simple. And the only um, part of this process is really learning the programs and also doing the actual work to get everything integrated, and then the time in the implementation, and then testing basically what you've integrated. So let's get to it. So step 5, integration, development, implementation, and test systems. Here's what we're going to cover: how to integrate all created systems, which you should have already, at least for the core ones that you need to put together to run your business, into your EOS, which is essentially your entrepreneur's operating systems. Just like any program, anything that you do in life, business, work, school, anything and everything, there's always a system that's being ran. Whether you know that or not, there's a system that's working and moving. Whether it works well or doesn't work well, then the results really show that. And so you have to create your EOS, uh, you know, from the beginning, or if you haven't really dialed that in, then begin that process of really figuring out what your operating system and how you're really operating. And so the clearer that gets, then the better flow and the better feel that you have for your business, because you've taken the time to really understand each part and how each part is working, and the flow so well that when something breaks or something slows it down, then you know where to look at it from a system process um, standpoint, rather than like trying to diagnose it without knowing really how that has happened. You should be able to go back to your system, your processes, and then be able to tweak or iterate one part, or several parts, or add an addition step to make that system run that much better. And so this is what you need to establish for your business is your EOS. How you will make sure that your core system and core process are fully implemented using the SAAS tools you've chosen. So that's going to come pretty simple, but not easy as far as integrating everything, but simple in a way where you're not thinking necessarily about how you're going to do it. It's just how you're going to integrate it with the technology that you've used, and which technology, and maybe a couple of SaaS products to be able to execute these systems. And then after that, it's really just test, test, and tests all systems, workflows, life cycles of your EOS after we input and integrate all the components together. And so, as I work, with my clients, this is usually a 6 to 8 week process, and then we have about 4 weeks of testing, making sure everything is dialed in. There's things that need to be changed or things that need to be added, or to kind of just completely change things around, or maybe deciding what we need another system and process that we need to put together, and then create the documentation for that specific systems and processes. So let's get to the SDB Implementer 7-step process handbook. And this step is really going to be pretty simple. Again, as you can tell, if you've have gone through all the other steps, that this is really very practical. This is very straightforward. There's no magic pill. There's no magic trick. There's no there's no easy way. There's no shortcut in systemization. And that's why in my business I've really devised it so that it's really tough in a sense to go through it. I mean, even just setting up a systemization strategy session with me, you have to answer 16 to 19 different questions on my questionnaire. And so I really use that as a filter in just really choosing ahead of time, um, you know, who I'll work with, because somebody that doesn't want to answer 16 to 19 questions, which I've gotten complaints about how my process is like difficult and tedious, and so I've designed it that way, where that's how it's supposed to run, and even this is kind of like step one in working with me as far as getting this filled out for me to even have a um, one-on-one systemization on your business. And so I have 3 levels that I go through with my clients, where step one is really getting this in front of them, getting them the tools, the web application, access to that, and then having them go through the beta version of the 83 pages for the SDB Implementer 7-step process. And then when they've really completed this process is when I'll take them on as a client in my level 2 client, which is begin to sit down with them, do like the consultation and actual implementation in their business together. And so it's a very you know not an easy process to go through, because I know that putting systems together in your business is definitely a commitment. And so for me, my filtering system is to not make it so easy, um, to even get to a place of um, getting an actual systemization strategy session, set up. So, that's just kind of like one of the things that I do as far as a systems of filter. As if you're doing this actual part, you probably noticed that my process has been kind of not as easy as some of the things that you've seen out there as far as getting things signed up. But for me, it's about truly, for me, understanding your business and your intention and the things that you really want to improve. I need to know as much as possible in the beginning, so that I don't waste your time and my time is not wasted if I can't help you. And so that survey application is really important in my process, which what I've set up as far as taking someone that's interested, stranger, into being my client. And so step 5: development, implementing, and test systems. In this module, we put and integrate all created systems that you've done on step um, 2 and 3 and 4, and then now 5, and processes into the EOS, which is your entrepreneur's operating system. Your EOS will be the machine where your business will run on based on uh, all you've done in steps 1 through 4. This is where we put everything together to run like a well-oiled machine. The results are after is that your core systems and your core process are fully implemented using SAAS tools you have chosen. We will test all system, workflow, and life cycles of the EOS after we put and integrate all of the components. So this is again very practical. There's only 3 steps essentially. So step 1, start with one system. Remember, that's going to be your CRM first, and begin to develop and implement its process using technology, SaaS, web app you have chosen. If a system you have chosen doesn't need technology, then skip to the next one. All right. So, if you're a new entrepreneur, your new business launching, your CRM will definitely be the first thing that we need to set up, because every piece of information as far as reaching out to people, email, that all needs to be tracked, and we need to know what has been done and communicated with each client or customer that comes into your business. And so if you are a startup, you already have things going, you're a business owner, you've been in business for a while, then maybe it's not the CRM, and so maybe it's something else in your business that needs to be really looked at. Sometimes or more often than not, it's the accounting part, it's the tracking your numbers, your analytics. Maybe that's the system that needs to be integrated so that you can work with actual numbers and track you know sales that are pending, sales that are in shipment, if you do physical products. And so all of those things, maybe it's inventory where you don't really have a way of tracking inventory, so you need to set that whole system up with a software. So whatever that is, start with developing that particular one first. All right. And so step 2, after developing and implementing the system, using the apps, tests, and make sure the correct outcomes and outputs are accurate. Okay, so in the integration of your systems and your processes, and then determining if your systems and processes need a web application to actually run it, right? To maintain it, to execute it, so that um, it's trackable, measurable, and that in some way you can automate it where you don't have to do any of the work. So, a good example is, your accounting. So you should, people should be able to go to your website or go to your calendar. If you do services, they should be able to pay, for services, for products. And, when somebody buys your product, and then, let's say you have like 30 units, somebody buys 2, then your unit count, goes down to 28. So all those things are pretty much integrated in the way that you want, so that you have a good pulse on each part of your business at all times using SaaS, technology. And so make sure that in your implementation, the outcome of what you're trying to track, what you're trying to measure, and then what analytics really you're trying to capture, or information that you're trying to navigate through. And so that is, step 2. So assuming you've done that correctly, and again, as I'll mention, the integration part, takes time, because if you are choosing to set up, these SaaS software yourself, then there's a huge learning curve, right? And so it's going to take a lot of time for you to understand, study, watch videos and content on whichever app that you're doing. And it's about calling support. Sometimes it's just email support. So this integration can take a while in even understanding the software. So this step 5 may be like this one slide, but this is the integration part is going to be simple but not easy, because you have to learn multiple um, programs and how they all work, and learn the interface. Okay, so it's going to be time invested if you're trying to do this on your own. All right, step 3: iterate and make changes, tweak needed to adapt to the correct outputs and results of that system. So it's very simple. Again, step 5 is very, very practical, and you just keep testing and testing and making sure you're not missing certain information, or you're not missing certain parts of your system where there's things that need to be developed so that you can track that one particular thing in every aspect of all of the core systems that you need today. And then step 4 essentially is repeat steps 1 to 3 until all systems have been developed, implemented, and tested. Okay, so you should at least give yourself about 4 weeks of testing, and before you start making changes, and kind of just let it run. It's almost kind of allowing it, using it enough to where you get enough data before you start making changes to anything. Okay, you want at least maybe 30 days, like 2 weeks minimum. But then you want to go through a process of iterating and maybe making changes. Now, since you're in step 5, each when you go through each system, iterating shouldn't be like difficult, because everything should have already have the system, the steps and processes, the descriptions, and then you have your videos that you've recorded, right, for your to record the process and cover all the details. And so literally it would be just adding maybe a step or deleting a step into your documentation, and then maybe reshooting part of the actual video, or basically creating a second video that you label changes to this sales system. And maybe it's a shorter, like 1 minute, 5 minute video of what has changed, right? And especially if you're at a busy time of the year in your business and it's really busy and you don't have time for it, then you can reshoot that whole video at a later time, but at least you've documented a second video for you to know and document that step, or that addition of that step has been changed, and it looks a little bit different. Okay, so you have to whatever changes you make in as you go through your integration, you have to go back to your documentation and make sure you document it, or else you've done all that work and spent hours and hours and days and weeks, and then you don't do the little things you need to do now to maintain it. And then pretty soon, if you don't keep up with the maintenance of and updating your systems, your processes, and your documentations and your videos, then essentially you're gonna go back to step 1, and everyone's gonna be confused of what needs to be executed. So you don't want to do that. You don't want to put in like the work now and then not even like use it and execute and maintaining it. Okay, so you're taking like 5 steps forward and then like 7 steps back. So you definitely don't want to do that. And so let me just go over some of the things that may be relatable to you as far as integration, and kind of walk through a little bit of some of these core ones that I've gone over before, and maybe an example of how integration would kind of look like. And so if you're a new entrepreneur or you're a business owner right now that may be wanting or maybe don't even have a CRM, I mean, I've worked and talked to business owners that have been in business for 20 years on a service business with technology, and they literally don't have a CRM. They don't have a centralized client relationship management system, and everything is on their employees' phones, their emails, and then the owners pretty much like Outlook or their personal like contact, you know, um, software that comes with with their PC. Okay, and so maybe now in integration we come to the CRM, and so if we were to integrate the CRM into our system or into the actual business, then one, we would have to go through the process of picking the CRM. Again, pick a CRM that is very compatible, and hopefully it's a bigger company that that has all the other components that you need so that everything is compatible. Or if not, that it has capabilities where you can have it communicate and be connected to other software companies can still execute the systems that you have. And so now that you're integrating and setting up your systems, then you would essentially for your CRM, um, you know, get to a place where you have to gather all of the information from emails to phones to contact lists into the CRM so that you can transfer all that information. And so there, depending on which software you go with, you have to create, a file so that it just kind of makes everything easier to um, transfer all your information rather than typing each one, um, you know, individually. And so there is that process. And with your CRM, you need to figure out, who am I working with? And so I have my staff, my team, I have my vendors, okay, I have my partners, and then maybe you have, um, contractors that you work with, and maybe you have, consultants that you work with on a consistent basis, and so you have to consider in your CRM what types of people you're actually going to be interacting with in your business, and you want to be able to track each of those things, and then depending on what type of business you are, then there's certain information that you want to collect from your client. And so if you were doing real estate, then we would essentially if we were kind of like a real estate management company, then we need information with the address of the building, the unit, the tennees, the renters, um, how much, how many bedrooms, how many bathrooms, you know there's all kinds of like different fields, different things that you need to collect and capture your business. So as you can see, just the integration part of like the CRM is already it already has a lot of nuts and bolts to begin with, and so maybe you've considered doing the industry specific CRM. So therefore, integration would be a little bit simpler because it's already tailored to your particular um, business or what you do. and so therefore it's a lot of it's already turnkey, and then it has a little bit of versatility because it has some marketing components and some sales components into it, some accounting, and so you kind of mirror all those things and take those things in consideration, so that the systems that you're running um, are really powered by that industry specific type of software. And then you have your systems that you've documented into the in steps one, or steps one a little bit, and then step two are really figuring it out, and then you have your documentation. So depending on how you've documented it, right, your system, then that should tell you what you need and how you should set up your CRM based on understanding the workflow that you'll have, and the types of companies or types of people, what you're offering. So your CRM could literally have a drop down menu that has all your different products, so all those things have to be integrated according to what you offer in services, how much it is, and all those things, and anything else that you want to track. Okay. And so once you do that for your CRM, and then you have to test it and make sure that everything works, and that you've set it up correctly, and that you've set up your CRM so it has, all the specific information about yourself, and then integrating email and all of that, which also is, a process of making sure you set up your CRM and you set up your email so that when you send out an email, then it doesn't go to like junk mail. Okay, so there's like authentication steps that you have to take on the email part. Okay, so make sure you ask a lot of questions, get some help if you're doing it on your own, or hire someone like us to do it for you, so that we can speed things up for you. Um, and so, and literally, so that would be, that one step, as far as, your system is really a system that you're capturing the information and the clientele and the interaction and the email response, the marketing campaigns that you're sending them should all be in your CRM, and setting it up that way. And so once you set that up and run it for about 2 to 4 weeks, during that process, what you want to do is that you want to write down, maybe ideas of how it can be better, maybe certain fields that you need, that you're missing. And so, give it enough time so that you can get some, good feedback in your data, and not make so much assumption in the beginning. And once you set it up, you don't want to keep iterating, these incremental things. Just wait for the 4 weeks, discuss it with your team if you do have a team, and then start, making suggestions and start making changes then, rather than these small things. And then you get feedback from other people, and then what you just changed doesn't really make sense because you haven't really collaborated with, the other changes and suggestions of the other team members in your team. And so literally, these 4 steps is all you really need to do. This is a very practical, steps, and there's no shortcut to this, but just to do it, to figure it out, as far as the technology and learning it, and making sure that you get the support you need to configure all the things according to the documentations that you created in the first 4 steps. All right. Only 4 things that matter when you systemize the business: systems, processes, documentation, and execution. Aside from closing sales, you will be tempted to do other things, But when it comes to systemization, your brain power has to be focused on these 4 parts: implementing the systems you need today, nothing more, nothing less, and figuring out its processes. Remember, make it simple, concise, and all you want is a title, a description, and then a video, a screen recording to basically capture the fine details of the process as you document them. And then after that, it's just documenting and then updating your system and making sure you hire or you become the person that keeps everybody accountable in executing them. All right, that's it for this step. I will see you on the next one right now.